welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which you know it's true, everything I do, oh, I do it for the public good. Yes, here we are once again, friends. Thank you so much for joining me for this special makeup afternoon TED Excellence, made up from last night, wherein StreamYard, for some reason, did not recognize my microphone. I don't know, maybe StreamYard had amnesia or something. Apparently this has been affecting other people using StreamYard as well, including Ranting Monkey, so there you go. Totally outside of my control. I am blameless. It feels good to be blameless. But yes, it's me, you, Dogcat Fox, Pepperjack. And a Friday afternoon. And here we are to celebrate the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks once again. So, who's joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon for this adventure? Noah Asensio, hello. Tony Giff, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. PieGuy07, hello. Keeverdam, hello. Who else is here? Ryan R, hello. Bridget, hello. Raziel, hello. J2022, hello. Shio Gorath, hello. Decode, hello. Fukin Kunt, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Evil One, hello. Mike Savage, Blard. Michael Sander, hello. And the original Shroom, howdy, sir. Hope you're all doing well today. So, what's on the docket for today? Let's get into it, shall we? Well, today is a really long title that caught my attention for all of its fancy words, but specifically for the word reciprocity. I'll tell you why in a second. The title is Embracing Equity and Reciprocity in Working Toward a Public Good. Now, reciprocity, as a vocabulary word, has a special place in my heart, because the very first time that I ever remember hearing it used in a sentence, it was in an audiobook of a Tom Clancy novel. Now, if I remember correctly, I think it was The Sum of All Fears. I could be mistaken. But it might also have been The Cardinal of the Kremlin. Either way, the conversation between the characters was they were government officials, and they were coming up with a code name for a mission. And the mission was one of, revenge, essentially. And the character giving the code name to the mission said, let's call it Reciprocity. And the way that the narrator, David Ogden Stiers, if you don't know who David Ogden Stiers was, he played Winchester on MASH, and he was as far as I'm concerned, the narrator for Tom Clancy novels. The way that character said that word with such venom and such sourness, it just stuck in my mind. So for the longest time, without really understanding the definition, I thought reciprocity meant revenge. It was something that was like aggressive and violent, but it's not. I mean, that's sort of like the irony of it. Reciprocity just means like, reciprocating, giving back in kind of thing, which, could also be considered, eye for an eye kind of thing. But either way, that's the roundabout reason why, of all the titles that I looked at for TEDx's this week, that one stuck out to me, and I just thought, okay, equity and reciprocity in working toward a public good. Well, when I see equity these days, I think equality of outcome. And when I think public good, I don't think equality of outcome. So these two things conflict in my mind, so that's why I chose this one. Anyway, that's all the preamble. The bingo card today is bingo card C. C as in, what I say on the thing, cantankerous. There you go, cantankerous. There's a good word. Also, if you'll direct your gaze to the top of the chat box to the GoFundMes that Keeverdam has so nicely provided. GoFundMes to our friend Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you guys have a few bucks to spare that you could spare there, their friends, and family could certainly use it and appreciate it. So, with all of that, a couple more hellos. Tyrannus, Alexandrius, Invictus Soul, hello. Somnambulan Nation, hello. Dragon Mage, hello. Hi, I'm Steve, hello. Who else is here? Hayden Titsy. I say that correctly? I hope so. Hello. And Viror of Ashmedai, hello. All right. let's get into it. This one runs just over 13 minutes, so your kind of average TEDx talk. Our speaker is Catherine Evans, A Future for the Public Good. Oh boy.
Hello, and thank you.
You guys hear that okay? Should I turn the music down? I'll give it another second here. I try to keep the music, audible but not overwhelming. You guys let me know.
So to start with, I wanted to really highlight a few experiences that led me to be here today. And in 2015 and 2016, I served as the student body president at Northern Iowa.
Okay, so anyway, for 2 years, she served as student body president at Northern Iowa. Iowa? Idaho. I don't know. Sounds fine, says some ammunition. Says, sounds good, says Tony Giff. Lexi Mads. Well, now I can start. Audio is A1. Okay, so you were student body president at Northern Iowa. In
this role, we faced campus student protests on racial equity issues, as many campuses did across the country.
Yes, 2014, 2015 was a time of really vociferous protests on college campuses. Complaining for racial equity in very interesting ways. If you guys have not seen, and I can forgive you if you haven't, the footage from Mizzou back in the day, and what they were doing to protest for racial equity on campus by having black-only spaces and spaces where white people weren't allowed. What was that teacher's name? There was a professor there. Her name was like Jennifer Glick or Jennifer Flick or something like that. Anyway, there's a funny video of her getting all self-righteous and ordering a reporter off of campus grounds because he doesn't belong because he's the wrong color. Kind of funny. Anyway, yes, so that was a time of massive protests. If you want to see even crazier protests, look up Benjamin Boyce's YouTube channel and check out his documentary series on Evergreen State College. And you'll get a flavor for what was going on across the country, although Evergreen State was kind of an extreme example.
Additionally, we were led to advocate that we hire our campus's first chief diversity officer, that the position be hired through a national search and be a direct report to the president of the institution. Ah,
your very first diversity and inclusion officer. Great. Let's read this little handout they have here. Fellow students, the recent anonymous comments, I can't imagine who might have posted them, on social media and the hurtful language our fellow students have heard are not representative of you and I. We are all members of the same Panther family. Wakanda forever. Every person should be welcome to our home, whether they have joined our family as a student or visit us as a guest. We need your help to make that happen. We disagree with those hurtful remarks, but that isn't enough. We must rebuke bigotry. Do you know the definition of bigotry? Wherever it is heard. So wait a second. Are you sort of implicitly vilifying someone because of their opinions? Oh, wait a second. Never mind. We can take a stand by telling our friends and fellow students when they say something hurtful. Yes, be sure to intervene. Don't be a bystander. On campus, the Hill, social media, and everywhere else, we must call out hate. Join us in making our Panther family the best it possibly can be. All right, so that's what else was on here? The text on the other thing is too small for me to read. Okay, so that was the sentiment at Northern Iowa student government at the time.
Since then, I've come to reflect that one office, one position is critical when it comes to holding institutions accountable.
But it's not enough.
And moving the needle forward. But one position and one office is insufficient when it comes to fully integrating diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DE&I work on a campus.
I was close, but yes, I agree. Only one person, that's just a gesture. That's just a gesture. That is a tiny little bite from a mite on the giant back of the rhinoceros of racism. So what are you going to do?
Additionally, I was reminded of a story in my early years as a recent graduate working in higher education. A student that I had supervised was about to graduate college, and over coffee, he asked me in 2020 about Black Lives Matter.
He asked you in 2020 about Black Lives Matter. Why? I mean, I suppose maybe she's like a member of a group or something. I guess we'll find out momentarily. Or we have to decide whether this is an anecdote that never happened. I don't know. The Gay Rascal, thank you so much. I'm late. Can we start? Where does this plane go? This plane goes down to Funky Town. Maybe. I wish. Can you imagine if this suddenly turned into like a Funky Town, like music video or something? That'd be great. Well, thank you, Gay Rascal. Appreciate it. Glad you're here. Okay. What did your friend tell you? Oh, by the way, let's go to the bingo card real quick just to remind ourselves what we're looking for as we're listening to this. Okay, plays victim, leaves out vital context. I haven't really gotten any so far. Weightless example, anecdote that probably never happened. That may or may not be what we're hearing now. Benevolent condescension, perhaps. Self-vilification or wretchedness, no. Feminism, no. Childhood or family anecdote, not yet. Privilege, I wouldn't be surprised. Sales pitch for product or service. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. I have a feeling they're going to be mentioned, or at least alluded to. Patriarchy, wage gap, mind reading assumes motives. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Word salad, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Marginalized, marginalization. I don't think she's already said any one of those. Contradicts own point or argument. Don't know what it is yet. Systemic/institutional. I don't think she's said that, but I could be mistaken. A list. Remember, that has to be a formal list. She's using a PowerPoint card, so I'm sure we'll get a list at some point. White supremacy, argumentative non sequitur, and collectivizes own demographics. So that's what we're listening for. I haven't heard anything yet that fits the bill. We'll see. Thank you, Keeverdam. Not sure where your plane is going, Gay Rascal, but mine is leaving for Ireland in less than 2 hours. Hope I have fun. Well, the luck of the Irish be with ye, lassie, or whatever. I don't know. I'm more Scottish than I am Irish. I have some Irish in my background, but I have a lot of four-leaf clovers, though. I found a lot of those over time. Well, have a safe trip, Keeverdam. Enjoy your trip to Ireland. I hope it is as beautiful in person as all of the brochures and photographs make it out to be. And, yeah, try to find a shamrock while you're there. I'm sure they don't sell those on the side anyway, but yeah. So have a safe trip. And thank you, Hoko 2025 Sports. Include everyone except those who disagree. Well, yeah, I mean, again, the definition of bigotry, okay, is hating someone for their opinions. Racism and bigotry as words and concepts are often conflated together, but they are in fact different ideas. You can be a bigot and you can be a racist, but you don't necessarily have to be both at the same time. So them saying, let's fight bigotry by getting rid of those words or opinions that we don't like, these are college students. University students, pardon me, so there you go. Anyway, where were we with this anecdote of you sitting down with somebody in 2020 asking you about Black Lives Matter?
After a pretty lengthy conversation, difficult conversation, we shared, different opinions about different things, but the student engaged in the dialogue and they thanked me because if it hadn't been for me, they would never have talked about that kind of a topic in their 4 years in higher education.
Wait, so they brought up Black Lives Matter to you, but if it weren't for you, they never would have had that conversation. Conversation about what? It was a difficult conversation? Was it a courageous conversation, Glenn Singleton? Okay, so is that just self-aggrandizing? Is there a point to this story?
Now, to go through college and not talk about racial equity, in my opinion, is really a shame.
Well, in my opinion, it's not. So, there you go. Now, I don't hate you because I don't share your opinion. I just don't share your opinion. So, see, I'm not a bigot.
And it is related to kind of the other work that I have done since then in community engagement. As seen in the pictures, taking students on service trips and having students engage in transformative learning opportunities where they really engage and learn from people and places that are different and similar to them in lots of different ways.
Okay, so you're basically providing some kind of like racial exposure therapy. Is that it?
Additionally, I'm led to kind of think about the public good and what that means. And as a public administration student, I think about public problems, and often we refer to these as wicked problems.
Wicked problems? Well, depending on what part of the country you're in, that might be a positive note. Isn't that like, if you come from Boston, isn't wicked like a plus? That's a thumbs up kind of thing? Or am I just off? Okay, a wicked problem. A wicked problem that goes against the public good. Okay, well, I wonder what our speaker would have to say about, I don't know, racial identitarianism. I wonder if that's a public good.
And then, what is an institution's role in addressing these problems?
Oh, institution. That sounds like institutional, which is on the board. Systemic institutional, circling that one. And just on reflex, circling free space, because why not? So there you go. Systemic institutional on the card, as well as free space.
Is it to create students or facilitate students to think about solution-based thinking or intentional community-based work to deal with complex challenges that communities face?
Do you have some specifics, like what kind of complex challenge would you apply intentional something or other?
Either way, we have lots of wicked problems. And one in particular has foregrounded my own research, which is that of racism. And one of our leading experts in higher education equity, Lori Patton-Dafis, calls racism a public health crisis.
Yes, I've heard that before. Racism is a public health crisis. I've been told that racism leads to blood clots. No, seriously, that was on a TEDx I did way back in the day when it was a scripted TEDx. I had it explained to me that racism caused a man to die at 65, I think it was, of a blood clot. I am not making that up. That is what I was told in a TEDx. So I think the title was something like The Worst Kind of Malpractice or something. At least the title I gave it. So if you are interested, just look up the word malpractice, I think, on my YouTube channel. You should probably find it.
So with that, I kind of want to think about this kind of sentiment that James Baldwin shares. And it's a little bit of a blurry picture. I took it at the African American History Museum in DC. But the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it. History is literally present in all that we do.
No. I'm not unconsciously controlled by events and things that I had nothing to do with and had no part in and no knowledge of. I mean, unless we're all just puppets, thoughtless, collective puppets. History is literally present in all that we do. I mean, I suppose in an abstract sense that's true. I have often, just as a mental exercise, walking to work, I'll see something on the ground like a discarded bag of potato chips, right? Just that little tiny little snack bag of potato chips, little, tin foil kind of thing, although it's plastic. And I think to myself, how many different discoveries, trials and error, all the things necessary throughout history led to the creation of that plastic/metal bag for it to be thrown on the ground. How many developments in material science or discoveries of how to print, or the person that designed the artwork, and on and on and on. All it just goes back in ad infinitum, or ad infinitum, as to all the steps that it took to get to that point. I think about that sometimes, just for the sake of, keeping my mind active. In that sense, I suppose history is present in all that we do, but my brain does not contain all of history. It contains my history, personal history. But, okay, anyway, I'm going off on what am I talking about?
Now, for institutions to operate business as usual does not take into account systemic racism and institutional histories. And it often can perpetuate the same harms.
Oh, perpetuate the harms of institutional racism. Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So, Now, tell me about the diversity, equity, and inclusion officer at your university that is there to see to racial justice. Am I making a joke, maybe? Let's see, does that count as a list? Bullet points, introduction, research, building, theory, conclusion. Yes. I mean, if we don't get a better one, I'll lean on that one by the end of the talk. How about that?
Now, thinking about the future of public good requires that we think about anti-racism.
Oh.
And Ibram X. Kendi defines anti-racism as actively supporting anti-racist policy or supporting or expressing anti-racist ideas.
No, that is not the definition of anti-racism, because that uses the very word in its own definition, which is a contradiction. So anti-racism. I'll explain anti-racism to you as Ibram X. Kendi explained it to me on a past TEDx. All right, so the first thing you have to understand is that racism is a universal constant. Everyone is racist, although there are some people who are more racist than others. I wonder if you can guess who those people are. And so there's two types of people in the world, and there is no in between. Okay? If you say you are not a racist, you are lying. Right? Or you're just ignorant. If you say you're an anti-racist, you're confessing the truth. Okay? So if you say you're not a racist, you're in denial. If you concede to your own racism inherent, you're anti-racist because you're working towards not being racist, which you can't be because racism is everywhere and everything at all times, which doesn't make any sense. But either way, there's no in between. Okay? You're either racist or you're anti-racist. But being anti-racist doesn't mean you are free of racism. That's how it works. That's how it was explained to me by Ibram X. Kendi. That definition she just gave, aside from the fact that it's a bad definition on its face, that doesn't at all explain the concept, because the concept itself is contradictory and nonsensical. But that is how it was explained to me. So
he also talks about in his book the need to have this work be ongoing and be specific and conscious action. It's not just I'm not a racist. It's actively supporting anti-racist in an agenda.
Right. You can't just say you're not a racist. You have to donate your resources to organizations and efforts to push anti-racism. And how does that work? Yeah.
So one university president at Arcadia University, AJ Nair, is kind of doing this work through a few different strategies. One of those strategies was increasing the university cabinet diversity makeup substantially. So the people making decisions in the cabinet and supporting work on campus were not all white.
Oh, okay. So in order to oppose systemic and institutional racism, you're going to employ a racial test for school leadership. I'm going to circle contradicts own point or argument, if you can believe it.
Because when he was hired, he was the only white or the only non-white member on the cabinet. He also does this by holding each of those senior leaders accountable to progress a campus-wide anti-racist agenda.
Oh, accountable. How does he hold them accountable? What does that mean? Anti-racist agenda. Does anti-racist agenda also include having a racial test for other places in the campus? Putting a value factor onto skin color? Is that part of the anti-racist agenda that this person is implementing? Okay, what was that again? About systemic racism, institutionalized racism?
And so I am left with thinking about what solutions might move a campus forward toward an anti-racist agenda. And often other campuses are not quite as close to where Arcadia University is at the moment, like the University of Massachusetts, Boston, which just worked to center anti-racism in a strategic plan.
Okay, whoa. We've got a lot going on here. Okay, for those of you listening at home, there is now a big formal letter up to the university community Okay, I'll wait to read it on the off chance that she's about to, but I'm very curious to know what this entire document says.
To exceptional backlash, in part from 75 faculty that signed this letter on the screen above. And they were nervous, or they viewed that the centering of anti-racism in the strategic plan contradicted academic freedoms, perhaps certain teaching strategies that they believe are data-driven but might contradict using a centering of anti-racism. And this leaves us with a huge question in terms of where we are in university settings. Are we moving toward anti-racism? Are we actively taking these steps? And if so, what does that look like and how?
Okay, well, first off, her graphic is all messed up because there's some kind of reflection opaqueness to one of her text box that's covering up the other one, so I can't read that at present, but I'll give it a shot here in a second. Thank you again, the Gay Rascal. TEDx in a nutshell. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit, and talk fast so nobody notices the contradictions. Well, this is true of any kind of speech where you're just kind of doling out possible snake oil, or you don't want anybody to pay too much attention. And that's also the benefit of having a pause button. So, there you go. Thank you, Gay Rascal, again. Let's see. To the university community. We are faculty of the College of Science and Mathematics. Okay, Science and Mathematics. All right. And we are writing to you to express our extensive concerns about the first public draft of the mission statement, mission statement and vision statement that was recently presented to the faculty. For comparison, see existing statements. Okay? We believe this document is deeply flawed in content, direction, and representation. Moreover, we believe that the absence of significant changes to this draft would bring serious damage to the College of Science and Mathematics, to the reputation of UMass Boston as a beacon of knowledge and education, and to the demographically and ideologically diverse group of students we serve, particularly those who see education as a means to rise socioeconomically. And then she has this highlighted or boxed off. We believe the mission and vision statements trample on the fundamental role of the university to facilitate the creation, curation, and dissemination of knowledge. To elaborate, we believe that the main goals of a university are to empower the pursuit of knowledge, to cultivate lifelong learning, to foster the exchange of ideas, to encourage critical thinking, to unequivocally support free inquiry, and to instill respect for a diversity of ideas and viewpoints. Under no circumstances can political or ideological activism be the primary purpose of a public university. I would tend to agree in spirit with that statement. Hoko, 2025 Sports, thanks so much. Amazing how openly racist leftist sites are. The amazing thing is just how blind they are to their own sentiments and the contradiction in their own mission statements, one form or another. We're going to fight racism with racism. I had a brief exchange with someone on Twitter yesterday. It was related to, but not directly about, the whole Little Mermaid thing taking place right now in the casting. But specifically this Washington Post article that was showing off all these viral videos of these little girls going, "Mommy, look, she's black like me." And I said, wow, I wonder if the Washington Post would put out videos of little girls saying, "Look, Mommy, she's white like me." Or is there something inherently wrong with celebrating skin color for its own sake? And this gentleman came in he retweeted my deal, and he said something that I'm paraphrasing, so if I get it wrong, I apologize, and you can check me. He said something to the effect of, "You had your turn, now it's our time," or something to that effect. And so it's like, oh, so I did what now? To who? So now it's good. Now it's okay. The racial supremacy, racial identitarianism is okay when you do it? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's the kind of mentality. It just boggles me, and it also makes me sad. The rest of the statement is obscured by other parts of this letter thing, so I don't know if she's going to fix that or can, but Let's see, but she does have bullet points raised up here. If your research on quantum computing is not perceived as promoting climate, environmental, or racial justice, will you be held accountable and your resources reallocated? Are these questions coming from the faculty? I'm assuming so. If your department makes the data-informed decision to support the use of standardized tests as a measurement of student learning or preparation, but the campus views this as being opposed to wellness, an ethic of care, equity, or an expansive notion of excellence, will your department be held accountable and its resources reallocated? Okay, so the faculty is asking if something that they do in the pursuit of excellence in education is deemed not racially equitable or something, will they be punished based on this mission statement? What happens if we proceed as we have done in the past in promoting science and mathematics and excellence in education, regardless of what the student looks like, but you guys decide that somehow what we're doing is unfair? What happens to us? I'm going to back up a little bit because I did go off there for a little while and give her a chance to catch up. In
university settings, are we moving toward anti-racism? Are we actively taking these steps? And if so, what does that look like and how? And really, ultimately, this type of strategic plan is a response to harms that students, faculty, and staff across the country over time have faced.
Harms such as?
It is in line with diversity and equity expertise across the country.
You know, there were experts in phrenology back in the olden days, and people who disagreed with them. Okay, what you showed the statement from the faculty. Okay, how are their concerns unfounded? That would be my question. If you're going to use that as an example or as part of your presentation, then you must have an answer to their concerns, where their concerns are, like I say, unfounded or nothing to worry about, or it's not going to tread on their territory. You have that response, right? And
it, in part, the resolutions that campuses have tried have not been the most effective. A lot of times has to do with the way that norms and practices operate on a campus, whether it be top-down decision-making, as I kind of mentioned, often led by white boards and white cabinet, made up of white cabinet members, as well as a transactional approach to teaching and learning that are not in line with thinking about how to integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion across campus.
Okay, well, for the sake of argument, I'm going to circle a list because between the previous deal of the structure of the presentation and now this, I think I'm safe in circling that. So, circling a list. Let me get that here on the board. And now let's read this card because she's just kind of hand-waved over it. What we know, an overview. Systemic harms in the U.S. to BIPOC students and faculty and staff at institutions. From added emotional labor to microaggressions. Oh, microaggressions on the board. On the board. To overt racism and much more. Systemic harms in the U.S. to BIPOC students, faculty, and staff and at institutions. What? So that's the list? Okay. Current practices and norms on campus. Top-down approaches to decision-making. Yes, because you have like a hierarchy of who runs the college. Transactional approaches often to teaching and learning. Forgive me if I'm being too literal here, but isn't the student-teacher relationship and the student-to-college relationship a transactional one? Inherently? Or am I living on another planet? Oh, wait, I am. I'm on the moon. Isn't that right, Dogcat Fox?
Wowie, wow, wow.
Yes. On the moon. Community engagement as a strategy to assess and progress. Nothing on this card has any specificity of anything. It tells me nothing. Please give me an example.
So I posit that community engagement is a strategy to assess and progress diversity and equity work. And as a community engagement professional, I am recognizing that if we don't start from a critical lens, universities are not representing or not reflecting on the fact that a public good, when an institution began, was really a white public good.
Okay, so the principles of a university pushing forward excellence in education at the time that the university was founded means that it is tainted by the skin color of those that were pushing it at that time. Why are you giving this talk? I mean, why do you feel qualified to stand up on that stage and talk about these issues? I mean, you're obviously entirely out of your element. You're white. Shouldn't you be, like, standing aside and giving the microphone to someone more in need of a voice? Aren't you out of place here? Why are you the one speaking? Now, that couldn't possibly be something that she'd have to think about, would it? No. Research and community engagement, critical reflection. Oh, we've done reflective practices on my show before. Critical reflection and community engagement can be ways for exceptional growth and learning. High-impact community engagement practices lead to retention and bridge building. Babble. I'm going to circle word salad here in a second. Complex, wicked problems and solutions toward a public good require an interdisciplinary, critical, creative approach. Yeah. Word salad. It doesn't mean anything.
And to not center race and racism in a conversation about racial equity will only lead to, at best, incremental change or no change at all.
How could you have a discussion about racial equity without discussing race? I mean, I don't know. I'd love to hear an example of what she's talking about, you know, or a situation where that occurred at some college, where it's like, we're going to have a meeting or a discussion about racial equity, and the concept, or just simply the word race, never comes up. How does that operate?
And so community engagement is really already starting to embrace some of these ideals in daily work, moving toward anti-racist, community-engaged experiences.
How?
Anti-racist, community-engaged teaching.
Like what?
Courses, for example.
What does an anti-racist teaching situation look like? How does that differ from your normal teaching situation? I know, I'm a broken record. Time after time. Cyndi Lauper. I need an example. I need to compare and contrast a before and an after, a with and a without. You gotta, come on now.
And thinking about how do we produce students that are ready to address these complex and wicked problems.
Produce students. How do we produce students who think the way we want them to think and do what we want them to do? Okay.
Additionally, our research focuses a lot on partnerships and what the partnerships look like from how students are operating within a community context.
Wait a sec. I got to step back for a second. Again, you put up the card that showed the letter from the faculty and staff explaining their concerns about pushing a political or ideological agenda into a place of learning. And you're talking about producing students who will be anti-racist, etc. Can you see the problem here? Can you see that you are embodying in your advocacy their concerns and not answering their concerns? And not at least taking their concerns on? Why don't you produce if a student is going to college to become a mathematician, hopefully you produce a mathematician. Or if someone's going to college to become I don't know. How about this? How about a teacher? They're going to college to become a teacher. You hope they produce a teacher ready to teach. But no, you are looking to produce activists for a specific ideological goal. Are you listening to yourself right now? You shouldn't even use the word student at that point. You want to produce activists. You want to produce followers, not students. Not people who are going to go out in the world and pursue a career of their own interest or whatever. No, they're going to promote the ideas you approve of. Listen to yourself.
But also how we as an institution partner with universities, with university partners and campus, nonprofit partners.
Such as, what nonprofit partners should the university partner with to promote anti-racist agendas?
And whether or not we are engaging in these relationships with reciprocity and equity and mutual benefit.
There's my word, reciprocity, mutual benefit. Okay. Got an example? You got one? Can you give me one example of what you're talking about? Of your own efforts or efforts on another college or something? Anything that I can think about or ponder in my own mind?
But beyond that, are we involving community partners as co-educators of students?
Why would you? I go to the college for education. A nonprofit outside of the college is not the first place I'd go for an education. Unless they're somehow involved in my field of study. What are you talking about? And
so forth. So in thinking through what that means for our students,
Yeah.
It means that students engage in high impact practices. It means that they are more likely to retain and often form mentoring relationships with more people on a campus.
Wait, high impact practice? What? Can I circle word salad more than once? Actually, you know what? It's my show. I can. It doesn't count for another circle or something on the board, but hey, I'm going to circle it twice.
We're more likely to recruit diverse faculty and staff,
as
well as really overall have a shared transformative learning opportunity where people are engaged in civic responsibility, bridge building, and prioritizing the public good.
You're going to recruit diverse faculty and staff, you say? Oh, okay. So dare I think that you mean to have a racial test for who should or should not be recruited into faculty and staff at the college or the university? Does your university accept federal funding by any chance? Just curious.
So ultimately, just highlighting that I believe that community engagement can serve as this model for how to achieve diversity and equity integration on campus.
Can you give us, I know, I'm a broken record. Can you give me an example? What's on this card? Building upon professional experience and deep dive into community engagement research and promising diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. Okay, number 1, community engagement, CE, as a strategy to work towards achieving DEI integration. What does DEI look like all by itself? How can I know what you mean by integrating DEI if you have not yet explained what a DEI initiative looks like in its moving parts? Okay. Number 2, DEI work as CE work and CE work as DEI work. Outcomes, goals, overlap. What? Number 3, institutional obligations to assess progress and involve students as equitable partners in decision-making. What? Did she take a class in corporate speak or something? Oh boy. John Miller says a list. Yes, I've already circled a list. Okay, well, anyway, I should be circling diversity, equity, and inclusion. I sort of should have circled that a long time ago. I'm also going to circle white supremacy because she's brought up more often than not how this block of people were all white or too white or something else. What else do we have? Let me see here. And this is a weightless symbol. Leaves out vital context. Yes, circling that one. Collectivizes own demographic. Well, she made it as simple as just white people, so yes, circling that one too. All right, so on the board right now, I did just a bevy of different circlings after listening to so much. Leaves out vital context, microaggressions, unconscious bias, free space, word salad, diversity, equity, and inclusion, contradicts own point or argument, systemic, institutional, a list, white supremacy, and collectivizes own demographics. That's what we have so far. And we're just a little bit over halfway through. Now remember, if you have arguments for squares to be circled that I haven't done yet, hold on to them. There will be time at the end to go over that together.
DE&I work relates to community engagement work. Community engagement work relates to diversity and inclusion work for a number of reasons: shared outcomes, shared goals, a lot of overlap in the research and practice. And ultimately, the key is, from my perspective, is this partnership idea of how to involve students and faculty and staff really in decision-making as equitable partners. And ultimately, there are some great resources in community engagement literature that talk about this. The Cone of Reciprocity, for example, adapted by Emily Yankee, she talks about how a thicker reciprocity often results in a richer partnership.
What does that mean? A thicker reciprocity. For those of you listening at home, I wish I could effectively describe these two charts she has up to you, and just looking at them and trying to understand them within their own context. This is something else. This looks like something. I think I brought up Scientology in a previous stream. Reciprocity. With, for, to, on. From thicker to thinner. With, for, to, on. What word would you put in front of those? Like, how about in bed? In bed with, in bed for, in bed to, in bed on.
And so when thinking about an external partner, that makes a lot of sense. But I also posit that when we think about our own students and staff and faculty, how the institution engages with its internal community partners also makes sense to ask these same questions. How synergistic are the partnerships with our students, with our faculty and staff? Are they transformational? How are we progressing students through the institution? And would they say that they receive mutual benefit that we know we receive from our students and staff and faculty?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
I held off as long as I could. I was being edged this entire time, but I couldn't hold back any longer. I have nothing to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what that was. I don't know what any of this is.
And so there are a lot of increasing demands for institutions to think about how we're educating the future students.
I'm trying to be educated right now. That's why I'm doing this, if you can believe it. And I haven't heard anything of an educational value at all. You use words and phrases and you describe things in the abstract. You give us no specific examples. You give us no active examples. You don't define your own terms. And what definitions you have given so far use their own word in the definition. So I don't know that I trust your educational bona fides. Sorry.
How we're educating diverse learners. It's a tall order, absolutely, to think through these challenges.
Oh, you're not kidding. It is a tall order. It is Empire State Building levels order to think through the challenges of your presentation. I absolutely 100% agree. My brain is working overtime trying to do its best to parse out something of note, something specific from anything you've said. But you haven't. The only thing I've gotten so far is that white people are inherently bad. If there are too many white people, there have to be fewer white people. That's it. That's the only rule on anything that I've picked up that you've mentioned more than once. And so I ask again, how do you feel qualified to be talking about this subject and on that stage? If that's the rule you have, why are you breaking it? Or feel, able to do so? I can't, my brain.
And think through how institutions are structured today versus how they might be structured in the future.
Oh, okay. Well, how might they be structured in the future? What would you like to see? How are things structured now? And what would be a preferable way to structure them? Could you give us a before and an after? Hell, I'll take an artist's rendition. Can you give me a CGI little setup of what the perfect world would look like on a college campus, in your opinion? Something? Please? Anything?
But I call upon when there is backlash to challenging ideas, when there's backlash to changing curriculum, that senior leaders really stand up for students, that faculty and staff think about how their daily work is impacted and influenced by an anti-racist approach.
Answer the concerns of the faculty in that letter. You have done nothing to dissuade the concerns voiced in that letter in anything you've said so far, and in fact, have actually justified their fears in what you've been saying. The faculty should be concerned with the students? Oh, you mean they're not when they're focused on a quality education rather than an ideological indoctrination? You don't even hear yourself, do you?
And that we really need to think about how this work becomes integrated across campus, the way that community engagement is thinking about how anti-racism is engaging and interacting with their own curriculum, programs, and so forth, can serve us all as a model for how to move that forward.
How can we get our agenda in an insidious fashion entwined in everything around us? Because we already know, we don't have to ask, we don't have to question, we don't have to doubt. Our thinking is the right way of thinking. And I know it's idealistic, but what is school for? All right? What does a good teacher do? All right? It's sort of like what is the best kind of journalist do? The journalist reaches for journalistic objectivity, right? Or as far as objectivity as you can go, as humanly possible. It's an impossible thing. It's sort of like reaching for perfection, but that's what you're reaching for. That's what that is the test by which you put your own work, right? What is a good teacher trying to do? Teach students how to think, not what to think. She is advocating for the opposite of education. She's advocating for indoctrination. She's not talking about a quality education at a university campus. She's talking about producing people who think and behave the way we want them to. And somehow, throughout all her education and all her activism and all her righteousness, she cannot see that. And it baffles me. And you say, Scribe, why does it baffle you? You watch these things all the time. Why does any of this still shock you? Why do you still find yourself outraged? I mean, I should have a mental scar tissue built up about 3 miles wide at this point, right? Well, no, but here's the thing. Every time I do one of these things, except in very rare instances, I'm always looking at a different person, a different individual, a different grown-up who has gone through life, slings and arrows and otherwise, and still comes out to this conclusion. As an individual, this lady has completely lost the plot. And that's why it still baffles me. You know, the idea that it can happen to people doesn't baffle me so much. The fact that I see a brand new person having dived so deeply into this nonsense, that's disappointing. That is baffling.
And I want to also share this adapted model of full integration that I adapted from Barbara Holland, focused on community engagement, but I think that it applies to also how we can integrate fully diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to first focus on strategic alignment and mission and vision-driven work. So when we ask ourselves if we're here for the public good, and can that be separated from an anti-racist agenda, how is that question and how is that answer reflected in our strategic alignment and our vision-driven work?
Okay, answer that question. Can you work for the public good without anti-racism? As rendered here.
Additionally, kind of circling through, how are diverse students, faculty, and staff engaged in the process of decision-making? On a strategic plan, are they given a draft to comment on? Are they involved in one subcommittee of making a strategic plan? Or are they part of the planning process from day one of forming a strategic plan? And not just like I was the student body president on the planning committee, but diverse representation. And
so again, a racial test, not a skills test, not a merit test, not a credentials test, but a racial test as to who should be involved in your organizational hierarchy. Why haven't you stepped down to make way for somebody more diverse? I mean, that would be the virtuous thing to do, right? Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're no longer the student body president. I don't know. I have no idea what our speaker does now or what her position is. She said back in 2014, 2015, she was student body president. I'm assuming she's no longer, unless this is a very old TEDx talk they're just posting up as new. So, which isn't impossible in and of itself. I don't know.
Thinking through what that looks like and how that could change the sustainability of policy that is meant to best support students. So,
best support what kind of students? I mean, it's not just students writ large, right? It's specific kinds of students. Again, what is your test for which students need support?
So I want to leave with some sentiments here, and one in particular is about what we think of and how we think of educating our students.
You quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in this talk. Okay, well, I'm going to back up a little bit because she didn't actually read that card that she put up. Let's see, we're at 11:45 now. Toward full integration, critical components of campus-wide integration. There should be a hyphen between campus and wide, by the way. Anyway, strategic alignment, mission, and vision-driven work, whatever that means. Continuous building up of partnerships. Do you hate hyphens? There's a hyphen somewhere in this card. Do you hate hyphens? Building up. Building up has a hyphen. Of partnerships. Sharing of resources. What kind of resources? How? Sharing in the belief. Sharing in the belief that DEI are core components of people's work. Oh, so this is a belief system now, is it? Oh. Shocking. Assessment and continuous improvement. Of what? How? In what way? How do you mark improvement? By what metric are you examining these things? What? Diverse students and employee involvement throughout. Right, a racial test first and foremost for anyone who's going to be involved. Not a merit test, not a skills test, not a credentials test, not a professional experience test. No, yeah, okay. Requires buy-in. There's a height. Okay, you know what? I have to stand against this hatred of hyphens. This hyphenism will not stand. How dare you, you hyphenist? Requires buy-in and support from leadership, president, chancellor, cabinet, and board. Well, yeah, it would if you want to, like, have this entire ideology infiltrate every aspect of a university campus. You'd probably have to bring in the people actually running the place. Of course, if they're running the place in the wrong color, what would you do then? I wonder. Let's see. We were on 11:45. I will start a little earlier. Okay, so on the board she's got quotes from two different people, Toni Morrison and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Why does this matter? Building a theory toward the public good. And you quote Toni Morrison and a guy who gave a speech pleading with society and the world to set race aside when assessing people. But you want to institute a racial test in faculty, staff, leadership, and involvement.
One in particular is about what we think of and how we think of educating our students. So I would argue that privilege, education is privilege, and thinking about this Toni Morrison sentiment.
Privilege. Privilege is on the board. Circling privilege. Can't wait to hear the Toni Morrison quote. Thank you, Corey Suzuki. The beating shall continue until the morale improves. Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. Anything I feel like I'm saying is just a repeat of everything else, right? But this is depressing. This is depressing to me. Yet another person seemingly in charge of guiding the education of other people, whether it's students or advising colleges. I'm not quite sure what her position is right now. Either way, she's not alone in this. And this is what has been happening on college campuses. And it's exceedingly telling. It is the most telling thing so far that, again, nothing she has said has dissuaded or diffused the fears voiced by those faculty in that letter. Nothing. And only actually underlines their concerns. Okay, what did Toni Morrison say?
When we produce students that are free, it is their duty to free other people, and think about what that means, and think about the fact that we even have to still say that. Oh,
I'm free from your process? I'm being produced as free? I'm free. I'm not required to adhere to your ideology. I'm not required to assess people and leadership and the opinions or the expertise of somebody on the basis of their skin color. I'm free to think as you want me to think, you say. Okay.
Additionally, I would like the audience members, in particular white campus professionals, to think about the sentiments shared in this Martin Luther King Jr. quote.
Oh, you want the white people specifically to ponder the words of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Oh, the white people need to hear need to hear this, because anybody else doesn't apply. But most importantly, white people. Is there something about the quality of thinking or attitude or philosophy or value that you attribute to white people rather than other people? Is that why they need specifically to pay attention to this quote that you put up? This quote out of context? Okay.
Which shares that white Americans won't as often work toward a full equality and integration of equality, embrace that in their work. And I think that's why you see from state legislatures to higher education institutions and many others being afraid to be measured by an anti-racist measuring stick, like faculty that signed the letter at the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
Oh, that's what they were doing? Oh, they were afraid of being measured by an anti-racist measuring stick? Yeah, because what does anti-racism demand? Mental conformity to your way of thinking. You are promoting racial assessment. Listen to what you've said. You're promoting racial assessment. If you're going to hold accountable or punish people for not assessing people on the basis of race like you do, then yes, there is something to be afraid of, and that measuring stick is inherently unjust. But no, you can't see that, or you're choosing not to see that. You did nothing to answer or to even read out the concerns posted by those faculty and staff. You've already decided they don't agree with you. They're obviously not anti-racist. You are promoting a very frightening vision of the world. Do you understand that?
I want to highlight one more thing, which is that in doing research, I found that there's a website called thedemands.org where 80 campuses have shared from 2015 to now racial equity demands. They mirrored demands that I read in an article in 1971 and some other adjacent research around the same time. I don't want to read the same Black student experiences that are happening in another 50 years. And we can do better if we stop letting history control us and start being very forceful in terms of adopting an anti-racist agenda. So, thank you.
You're not going to tell us what any of those demands are. We're not going to have the opportunity to assess for ourselves whether those demands are either reasonable or feasible. It just demands from 1971 are the same demands from 2015. Over that course of time and given the shift in society since 1971 or whatever, maybe it's that those demands are unreasonable or impossible or inherently inequitable. I couldn't tell you because you're not telling us. Anyway, that frustrating little sojourn aside, let's move on to the bingo card. And where are we at right now? That's where we're at. I'm going to go over the bingo card one more time by myself. If you guys have arguments for squares yet to be circled, hold on to them, and we'll get there one way or the other. Plays victim. She never talked about herself. And I would be surprised if she ever, in the course of this, or in general terms, would ever play the victim, because she's obviously not a victim of anything, ever. She exists with a magical force field that surrounds her entire body, obviously. Weightless example. The Martin Luther King quote taken out of context and taken out of time. What else? I don't know. Bringing up the demands from 1971 and not giving us any details of what those are or why haven't they been fulfilled. On and on. There's countless examples of weightless examples. So let me circle that one. Anecdote that probably never happened. Did she give us any anecdotes aside from sitting down with that student? And it was just such a weird, I don't know, something that never happened? I don't know, I didn't really get she did say, if it wasn't for you, I never would have talked about this. I mean, that's a little bit self-congratulatory. I don't know, I'll leave that to you guys. What do you think? Benevolent condescension. Oh, do you think? You think? I need white people to listen to this next quote because it's for your own good, and obviously you need this help because the way that you are negates your ability to understand anything that hasn't already been said, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
Our first bingo, down the diagonal. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Yes. Because obviously, as I intimated, if white people are so terrible and they're the last people who should be in charge of stuff and on and on and on, what are you doing on that stage? Feminism. She didn't talk about gender wars or anything. I don't recall that she talked too much about, elevating people on the basis of gender. That really never came up, so I don't think so. Childhood or family anecdote. Again, she never talked about herself. Sales pitch for product or service. Not particularly. Actually, you know what? Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be Anti-Racist, and saying the title effectively over and over and over again. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do that. I'm going to take the liberty there. Patriarchy again. She didn't talk about sexual stuff or gender stuff. Wage gap. She didn't bring up socioeconomic stuff that much, if at all. I don't think. So no. Mind reading assumes motives. Well, obviously she knows. I don't mean to double dip, but, you know, obviously white people need to hear this because white people, etc., and so forth. Totally obviously.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Our second bingo. All right, let's keep going. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. No, nothing that she used was original. It was all recycled stuff from other sources, as far as I can recall. Marginalized, marginalization. Did she say marginalized groups? Or something to that effect? I want to say she did, but I might need a backup on that. So you guys tell me. And lastly, argumentative non sequitur. Something she brought up that had nothing to do with anything. I'm trying to think because there was so much just word salad garbage in there. I don't know. Nothing comes immediately to mind. I could see how I could understand there's an argument for it somewhere. But anyway, that's what I have so far. 2 bingos so far. If you guys have arguments for squares to be circled, please put them in the chat now and be sure to tag me in your comments so I can parse it out more cleanly. Let's see. What has people been saying on here? Bring back the 90s, somebody, anybody, Plague Doctor, Zach. Yeah, about 90... like 96 and back-ish? 96, 94 to 96, I think that might be the sweet spot. Maybe. Just maybe. Let's see. Lexi Mads, I'd say she's a victim of CRT indoctrination. It's possible of anything. I mean, it sounds a lot like it. She's just glommed on to self-hatred, and this is the proper way to treat people, and this is the fair and equitable racial equity way to treat people now. Racial equality basically just means being racist towards the right groups. That's all it means, essentially. That's how it's been promoted to me time and time and time again. Viewer of Ashmanai, can you fill in word salad more? I mean, I guess I can. Hold on a second. I can do this and this and that. So, how about... Uh-oh, my music's cutting out. Does that mean I'm cutting out? You guys let me know. There we go. There's word salad. Bridget, you want real diversity? Advocate for study abroad. Hey, I studied plenty abroads. Yeah, okay. Okay, what do you want from me? My Bob Hope moment. I don't see any arguments for anything else to be circled, so maybe did I have it all right the first try? 2 bingos? If you say so. I'll give it another couple of minutes, and then we'll wrap things up. Let's see. Bridget, I did laugh at that one. Of course you would, you sexist. Ha! Ha ha! How dare you affirm my misogyny? Ha 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 ha! Joke's on you! Let's see. Viewer of Ashmanai, would it help if we just culled the population based on race? Why hasn't anyone tried that before? Yeah, tell me about it. Alright, well, I don't see any arguments for squares to be circled. I think this might be the first time, unless you guys tell me otherwise, that I did it all perfect the first time out. So, yeah. While I wait for any last-minute arguments, programming note for upcoming shows. Sunday will be the Sunday stream at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. wherein I actually have a plan. I think I'm going to do another border news digest because there's a lot of stuff going on in the last week or so in regards to immigration, border security, and so on. So that's my idea for Sunday. Look forward to that. Now, next week is going to be a bit of a mess because, at least as of right now, I am scheduled for jury duty Wednesday and Thursday. I'm not quite sure how much of my day it will take up yet, because I haven't gotten there yet. So Thursday is going to be kind of up in the air. Depending on what happens Wednesday, I'll have a better idea of what my schedule will look like for Thursday and TED Excellence. So keep an eye on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. There's my Twitter down in the bottom corner, scribe_light. And I will let you guys know. I might have to move the show again next week for completely different reasons. We'll see. But that's what to keep forward to. And as well, because Thursday I'll be out and about all day, there will not be a She-Hulk Episode 6 review on this channel at the usual time, as I would prefer. As well, I'll not be here. So that might be a Friday thing as well. We will see. So that's upcoming for next week. Keep an eye on that. Any arguments for squares to be circled? Oh, and Plague Doctor, Zach. And don't forget the AAA in about an hour and 15 over in Sinatra Screams channel. Yes, guys, if you like what I do, well, then you'll have 3 times the fun with Sinatra Says, Drunken Uncle, and Polydub over on the AAA stream, over on the Sinatra Screams channel. Look up Sinatra Screams on YouTube and go subscribe there and follow them. Yes, they will begin their show in about an hour and 15 minutes. It starts at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, and that's 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. So go check them out. I've been guested on there before. I may be again in the future. Who knows? Yvonne Solomon, she definitely implied marginalization with her whole students need DEI thing, but I don't think she specifically said it. Well, she doesn't need to have specifically said it, and you know what? You're absolutely right, because in the aggregate, she did that very thing. She both implied, at least heavily, and I think that counts. So you're right. If it were the last square before a bingo, I probably actually wouldn't need that much convincing. Because, I mean, the whole thrust of her argument, such as it was, is that there are the haves and the have-nots, the privileged and the underprivileged, those that need help and those that can't but need help for their wrong ways of thinking and all that kind of stuff. Also, you know, oppose bigotry, everybody. And Shadowclaw, I saw episode 5 of She-Hulk. Well, you have my condolences. With that, everybody, I'm going to call it here. There is our bingo board. 2 bingos, not bad, for a talk on racial equity on college campuses and the contradictions therein. Everyone, thank you for joining me, both last night for the failed stream and also for today for this stream. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me for this. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMes pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. It really is appreciated. I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday. I hope you have a good weekend ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.